Hey, how's everybody doing? This is George with Truck Driver Nation. What I'm going to go over today is going to be Truck Drivers Nation's guide to outsourcing freight dispatchers in the Philippines. And the reason I want to cover this because we've got a lot of people that are now getting skilled freight dispatchers from the Philippines because they know that they can actually recruit owner operators. They can do the actual contracts. They can do the um, negotiation and all that good stuff for the owner operators on their behalf. A lot of these people got between 5 and 12 years experience. But one of the things I want to go over is, and when you're outsourcing to the Philippines, there are some do's and don'ts that need to be covered so you understand the parameters of what you need to set your, like basically your standard operating procedures up when you're doing this. Obviously, if you're interested in sourcing your freight dispatchers from the Philippines, make sure to go to Truck Driver Nation. Go under payment portal. You can also go all the way down to the bottom, and that's also going to list those outsourcing guidelines that you need to obviously review and think about these things. Now, you can do it any way you want. I'm not getting in the middle of what you can and you cannot do, but this is what we highly suggest. I've got the guide. I'm going to read over the guide and discuss the points as we go through them, and that way you'll understand. So it says, obviously, this guide is designed for U.S. based dispatchers and trucking professionals who want to protect their business, owner operators, and revenue while still benefiting from low cost Filipino help. Here is a detailed list of organized in obviously three parts. One is going to be tasks Filipino freight dispatchers can be trusted to handle as outsourced help. The next one is going to be tasks you should not outsource to protect the U.S. owner operators and financial integrity of your organization. The next one is going to be red flags to watch out for when outsourcing to the Philippines. Each one of these, keep them separated when you're doing these, but make sure you cover these. Make sure again to go under payment portal to where this is listed. Trusted tasks that you can outsource to the Filipino freight dispatcher. These are duties that they can't that don't require sensitive financial access or legal authority, but still support the business effectively. Daily operational tasks. You can let them check load boards like DAT, truck stop, 123 load board, and report matching loads. Monitor and track driver ETA and check calls. They can do this as well. So they do know how to obviously get the freight, call the broker, negotiate it. But just remember that limited power attorney is under your business's name. It's not under the outsourced help. So you need to make sure that that's understood. Now, remember, when you're outsourcing, there's not a lot of legal grounds that you have when you're outsourcing because you're in two different countries. But that being said, let's continue on. Also, they can confirm the delivery of the appointments with the brokers or receivers. They can also update the TMS or Google Sheet with low progress, depending on how you're going to set it up. Submit the bill of ladings and proof of deliveries via the email that's going to be to you. So that way you can obviously do your invoicing and make sure you do have your final rate confirmation. And that way you can actually go ahead and bill them. Owner operator support. They can screen owner operators based on a set of criteria, based on their equipment, their insurance, and their lanes, because they're going to recruit the owner operators. They also can answer inquiries from interested owner operators based on the profile that your given freight dispatch service has that you want them to meet. Because it's based on, do you have fuel cards? Do you have insurance, plate program, all that stuff? Some people do, some people don't. I only deal with owner operators that already have their MC number. They can also explain dispatch service benefits. That obviously they can use from a script or frequently asked questions section that you may have available in your overall presentation that the freight dispatcher, your outsourced freight dispatcher can address that to the owner operator. Also, they can schedule onboarding calls with the U.S. dispatcher. That means yourself. So if you're not convinced that that's a good candidate, then they can schedule those calls so you can have a meeting with that owner operator and clarify everything based on your status of being a United States citizen, a U.S. based freight dispatching service, and et cetera when it comes to that. Now, the back office tasks, what they can do is they can organize the carrier packets. They can follow up with the brokers on missing rate cons or BOLs, and you'll be able to see that in your TMS, whatever you're choosing to use. They can send template emails for factoring verification. Now, the template emails for the factor and verification, those are going to be the ones where they fill out the trip and everything based on that. And then based on the proof of delivery and the rate con and send that to them. Also, they can prepare the invoices using the templates. They can also collect and organize insurance certificates. That's just going to be everything that's in their permit books. And then as far as communication, communications, you really need to kind of have limited authority on what you're allowing them to do, but they can relay broker updates to the driver with oversight. So, but once you get them trained up according to the way you want to do business, because remember, they've already been doing business for other U.S. Trucking companies as freight dispatchers, then as they learn the way you want to have it, then you can obviously, give them more leeway with this. Also, they can confirm basic broker load details via email. They do not do no final negotiations. If you get trustworthy of them, then that's fine and dandy. But thing is, you're still going to need to be standing by. So when they find that freight, that you can easily negotiate that freight if that's what needs to be done, or you can easily talk to them. And because for me myself, I would do it through Telegram so they can tell you what the rate, the load is, where it's going, the weight of it, what the commodity is, and all that. And then you could work that final settlement out through Telegram if you choose to do it that way. They also can respond to check call requests via email or app like MicroPoint, TruckSpy, etc. Check calls obviously used to come on the phone. Now we're in 2025, MicroPoint and all that different type of stuff is obviously being used. But also, they can also make sure that the owner operator is compliant to even have a MicroPoint on. So all the different tasks that you give them to do, they will follow them verbatim because they don't want to lose their job. They appreciate the opportunity that you're giving them to begin with to be a freight dispatcher, so they're not just going to throw that away. Now, sensitive tasks that you should not outsource. These require financial access, legal authority, and business discretion that could jeopardize your operation. Now, no-go areas, negotiating rates directly with brokers without U.S. dispatcher approval. But obviously make sure that you have the final approval on all the dispatches that you're going to take. And if you trust them, yeah, let them do it, because once you get them trained up and how much experience they have, because a lot of these people have already been negotiating loads and all that stuff. So they really didn't have no oversight when it comes to actually securing the load for the owner operator because they're going off the profile that was already set up between the dispatch service and that owner operator. Now, signing rate confirmations are broker carrier agreements. Now, signing rate confirmations, if they represent you on your behalf, they can sign it. Is that legal? I don't. That's the fact. I'm going to say no. Okay. Now, broker care agreements, even you can't sign the broker care agreements. They have to have that copy and paste stamp with that given owner operator that you can actually use that under that limited power of attorney to represent him. You can do it that way. So if you're going to give them the rubber stamp, basically to let them do the freight care agreements, then that's your call. Access and factoring portals and approving invoices, I wouldn't do that one. That's a no-go, okay? Authorizing fuel advances and lumper payments, no-go. Okay, you need to do that yourself because that's actual money being moved around. Handling money, bank accounts, Zelle, Cash App, QuickBooks, no-go. If they do it, fire them. Okay, it's just the way it goes. Filing for MC, DOT, or insurance changes, no-go. You're the one with the limited power of attorney. You need to step in and do this. That would be probably one of the best versions of having a VA or virtual assistant that you have that would be in the state side, because any of this could be doing just be doing office work without the actual negotiating the rate price in the given market for that given trailer to ensure that it's at the right rate so that truck can be profitable for the week. And you need to follow the TMS and make sure that's happening, because if it's not, you could lose your client. Direct communication with shippers on behalf of carriers without clearance. If you give them clearance, yes, they can talk to the shippers for behalf of the carrier. So that's absolutely something that they do. The ones that I deal with now, I know that they're experienced in doing that. But remember, when you're dealing with a brand new freight dispatcher that you've never done business with, or work with, or they worked under you, then you got to be careful to make sure that they are doing all the procedures correctly. Then we end up with the correct results. Red flags to watch out for when outsourcing the Filipino dispatchers. Now, this may indicate future issues and reliability, legal exposure, or misrepresentation. Behavioral, and integrity red flags. Create fake rate cons or a bill of ladings to cover up mistakes. If they do that, they're fired. Don't even question. Don't even go past go. Lying about being in the U.S., pretending to be an American dispatcher. They shouldn't be doing that. Okay. Nobody says that we don't tell nobody to act like you're from the United States. You're a dispatcher and you work for whatever carrier. For example, they are a freight dispatcher and they work for Truck Driver Nation. Um, Making unauthorized calls to brokers or carriers. If it ain't within the scope of what you're allowing them to do, that is a no-go as well. Over promising capacity and manipulating lane preferences to get loads. That depends on the given situation based on the owner operator. If they're used to working with that dispatcher and they're willing to will and deal on where they're wanting to go and all that good stuff, especially since we're dealing with owner operators, that's going to be, that would kind of be on a one-on-one basis on how far you can let them go or you're willing to let them go with that. Um, Inserting personal phone numbers on dispatch forms or rate cons, no go. For one, it's not, if there is a personal number, it's going to end up showing up as 63 or something like that because that's Filipino numbers. Security access red flags. So asking for login credentials for financial tools like QuickBooks, factoring accounts, etc., no go. Because they don't need that. You don't need to let them have access to that to begin with. Saving sensitive documents on personal devices or Gmail accounts, that's a no-go, but it's going to be hard as hell to kind of stop that one. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with these people. I can tell you, we all take risks on what we're doing. You don't want to lose personal information. You don't want it to come back on your company. But that being said, you got to definitely watch out for that. Now, refusing to work through companies' CRMs and TMSs and tracking sheets, they're fired if they don't. Trying to build their own book of drivers outside your company, basically moonlighting, working on the side, no go. They're absolutely fired. Okay. So you do have to watch out for this stuff. Okay. It's not that they're going to do it. Okay. They want to have the job because you're paying them on a salary. Okay. But if they're going to try to pull this, then obviously you need to make sure when you're doing these accounts, when you're doing these owner operators, they have personal connection to you and they understand that that particular dispatcher works for your company. They work for Truck Driver Nation, for example, for myself. If they play with me, I will definitely, you know, it's just no go. I'm in the Philippines, okay? So I can get their ass. That's the whole point. That's the reason I tell people if you want this now, you need to do it now because I'm here in the Philippines. But you got to watch out for people. People will do anything, including the people that even, want our services. So just make sure you understand, keep everybody in checks and balances to make sure they're staying within the spectrum of services that you're providing, whether they're working for you or whatever it might be. Operational red flags. Constant poor English communication on broker and client calls. They got poor communication. Remember your systems. I would definitely do something like Ring Central so you can record all the phone calls and stuff like that. So you can go back and you can spot check them to make sure they're staying in compliance with your standard operate procedures. Delays in updating status reports and dispatch sheets. I'm only going to give you one warning. If so, then they're fired. I repeatedly missing follow-up tasks like the bills of lading, the invoices, and the broker updates. If they don't follow it, they're not doing the job, then they're fired. Ignoring instructions or freelancing low decisions. If it ain't something I gave them within that scope, if I ever catch it one time, then I'd have to make that decision at that point. I don't want to fire them. Obviously, I like to get them trained up where they understand, but you just have to make those decisions. You may have to fire them. I know it seems like a lot of this saying it may have to fire them, but the thing is, just your business. You're going to do what you want to do. I'm just saying how I would do it. Extra tips for protection. Use US-based email and VoIP numbers you control, like Google Voice, Ring Central. That's exactly what I do. Require all calls to go through recorded lines, which I do. Never give access to actual financial tools or signatures. exactly my standard operating procedure right there. Have them work inside Google Sheets with revision history on, which I do. Um, Require non-disclosure agreements and IP protection clauses in their contracts. You can, but it's going to be hard to enforce because they're outside the country. Keep a task tracker and do weekly audits. I do. I literally have somebody that's in my office that actually does this. It don't take them long to do it. Give me all I need them to spot check, and I don't. They're not working for me full time, so I just pay them for this limited service, so which still saves me money. Profitability breakdown for outsourcing. This is why you do this to begin with. All that being said is do's, maybes, and don'ts. Okay. Profitability. If you're paying them $400 to $500 and you're charging anywhere from 5 to 10%, this is going to give you, when you look through there, it's going to show you what you're going to properly make. I'm doing 10%. That's on the high end. But let's say if they're doing $30,000 a week at 10%, you're making $3,000 a week. So the Filipino freight dispatcher, you're paying $500 an actual month. Okay. So that means you're making, and you got to remember, this is for week. I don't want this to be misunderstood because there was a misunderstanding in the program that it's actually $2,500 on average a week that you're going to be making. So you're making about, give or take, $20,000. Okay. So that's about what you're going to see. And then you go through the rest of them. I'm not going to get into them. You definitely need to go to the website because you're making, the more trucks you're doing, like I tell people, if you're doing 5, obviously, I would definitely tell you, I'm not even going to get off of this. You definitely need to go in and look at the Filipino breakdown. So that way you can understand those numbers. Final tips. Start with task-based contracts. Do a 1-month trial with them. They don't work out, get rid of them, and let me know if you actually got them through me because I give you somebody else. Use platforms like Upwork or online jobs for evented workers. I do this myself, so I interview them and I get rid of them. Also, they're good about following your standard operation procedures, so keep that in line and protect your company data with cloud access only, no file downloads. Okay. That being said, that's the short and skinny of the way you need to handle this as somebody that's going to use outsourced help. Is it worth it? Yes. Oh, yes. Versus the risk, it is absolutely worth it. Okay. Because they're going to get busted out. All you got to do is know what they look like and you're going to find them and see them. And then you know what you're going to need to be changed. But anyways, that's going to be it for here. This is the voice version of it, the audio, which is going to be on YouTube. I hope this helps. Make sure you go into the website and look at on the page, and there is everything's going to be what you would go under. Let me get here real quick. You're going to go under TDN payment portal, TDN payment portal. So when you go under there, that's going to be where you're going to actually find this in. So it's under Truck Driver Nation. Go to www.truckdrivernation.com. Then go, because I know you're looking at this in YouTube site, and then go under the payment portal and go all the way to the bottom. And that's where you're going to find Truck Driver Nation's Guide to Outsourcing Dispatchers in the Philippines. That being said, I'm going to bring it to an end. You need help, assistance, please go through the website, get a hold of us. Also, especially if you're students, make sure you do the webinars and ask these questions when it comes to this type of stuff, when it goes to outsourcing, because yeah, I got regular standard students do it, but I also have the VIP students that are doing it. But that being said, that would be the gist of this. And it's working out great for the people that actually do this. A lot of people don't believe in what they're doing. I can't help that. But for the ones that are using the outsource help, congratulations. I'm glad it's working out for you. But if you need more people, as you get your people settled in, give me a call back and we'll get you another person and get them lined up, interview them, get them pre-qualified, and then obviously get them boarded with you. But anyways, I appreciate everybody's time. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for visiting Truck Driver Nation, and God bless everybody.